This is the video from your first attempt at rolling kayaks. And I'm going to step through this just to kind of give a little narrative to what was happening and give you things to think about as you're watching the video. First, I'll let this one play through. This one is John, and we'll let it play through, setting up for the roll. Got to get psyched. Over he goes. I'm going to let it go to completion. Spearfish, tap on the boat, and in I come. All right, so that was the first attempt. Now, I can go back and describe a little bit of what's happening there. So as he gets set up, watch where his paddle is. John, watch where your paddle is as you go over. Now what I'd like for to happen right there is your paddle should be on the side of the boat. And it's not there yet. That is, you might flip over at any time. You never know what's going to happen. Your paddle could be anywhere. But before you attempt any roll, you must get your hands, both of your knuckles, on the side of the boat. And I didn't explain that well when we were doing the rolls, but watch that your right hand actually never comes out of the water. And if your right hand never comes out of the water, then that blade is never coming out of the water. So you're destined to fail. See, that paddle never came out of the water, and what's more, the other blade, which is up in the air, never got anywhere close to the bottom of the boat. That paddle blade should actually be going across the seat, like you're sitting on it, or it'll be paddling yourself just against your butt is where that paddle blade should be. But instead it's sticking straight up in the air. So obviously there's no leverage. As we watch it play through, now from there, you did take your time and got the paddle shaft perpendicular to the boat. The only problem is that right hand is nowhere near the surface. And the way to get it there is to lean out a little bit more to the side and really try to reach and get that paddle. That you've got it up against the side of the boat, which is really good. And it's just that it's not high enough in the water. Now we can talk about other ways that we can get it there. Part of it is you're in a sea kayak instead of a whitewater boat. So it's a little, the boat itself is a little taller. So what you're trying to reach over is a little bigger, but not too much. So that really shouldn't make a big difference. From here, if you were to pull straight down and keeping your head down and keeping your torso down, but just focusing on trying to rotate the boat itself, and that's by lifting your right knee, pushing down with your left hip. But see, when you push down with that paddle, you basically were spearfishing with it rather than stroking with it. And without a stroke, then the paddle isn't pushing anything, you're just spearing with it. And then the natural thing is that you'll fall back down. So that is what we would do there. Now I'm going to pause it here, and something to be aware of, and the same technique is used for riding your boat, whether you're doing it off of the bow of my boat or with the paddle in your hand. Your focus should be on turning the boat over, not on getting your head out of the water. So John, if you watch, you're going to lift your head out of the water and still leave the boat turned upside down or turned most of the way. What you should be doing right now is just rotating your hips, turning the boat so that the bottom of the boat is in the water and the top of the boat is out of the water. Instead, you lift your head right there. And so right now that boat should be totally upright and the weight should be off your hands. That is, when the boat gets turned far enough, it wants to pull you up with it. So you wouldn't have any weight on your hands at this point because it would just pull you naturally up, but you have to push yourself up. All right, so that's the first one. Now we'll go through the second roll. This was the one where I got a little eager to get in there because it's obvious to me now. Let me get a little further there. You rolled, let me back that up just a little bit, show you what you did there. And pause. Oh, one frame back, one frame back. Right there. Beautiful setup. You're exactly where you should be. Actually, your head could be against the boat more, so you got your face right up against the spray skirt. But this is good enough. In a sea kayak, it is less important, but it will help for you to make that reach to the side of the boat and getting the paddle out of the water if you are sitting with your face closer to the boat. But your setup on the paddle blade is exactly where you would want it. Let this play through. All right, again, see where that paddle is. Now there's a second thing that's going on here. As opposed to pulling down, that is perpendicular to the direction of the kayak, you're sweeping. And so you're just sweeping through the water like you're paddling forward, and that won't get you up. That stroke should be going toward the other side of the boat, not to the back of the boat. Let this play through. You see how where your paddle blade ends up now. The blade that's underwater is actually close to the end of the back of the boat. It's going behind you, and it won't do any good back there. So let this play through, get set up. I'm going to go back to the beginning of it and let you watch that again. So over, good. Everything is good here. Now, another thing I can see is that the blades of the paddle, it's at the side of the boat, but they didn't get rotated. Now that hand, the right hand, should be up on the surface of the water more. Let it go through. And then where you're starting from, in this case, you were actually a little bit forward. Let me back that up just a few frames. So you're pausing here. This is good. Your paddle, you can see it in the water. It's still deep. It's a lot deeper than it would be. If you watched my rolls, my paddle blade is actually complete. The whole paddle is completely out of the water. You may not be able to get that, like I said, because your boat has a little bit taller hull, but you can still get that paddle blade closer to the surface. And my point on this one there is that you are initiating rolling when the paddle is still not out 90 degrees. So let it play, you're pulling, and so it wasn't out to 90 degrees, and so your stroke is to go back instead of down. And we'll let that play one more time. Also, if you saw that little gasp, get back to it right here. That gasp of, let me get air while I can. But that tells us also that you're bringing your head up first. And at this point, your head should actually be going down with the paddle blade, because your head is pushing down, the paddle blade is pushing down, your whole side of your body, your arm, all of that is applying force downward on the water so that the boat will go up. You're pushing down with everything else while you're lifting up with your right knee. And as you're lifting up with your right knee, you're also pushing down with your left butt cheek. And that's where they talk about the hip snap. You're rotating your hips in that direction. You're rotating your spine in that direction. So your butt will be flat on the surface again. One final point I want to make is regarding the orientation of the paddle blade. That is the rotation of it in your wrist or rolling your wrist. This is a really good setup. This is right where it should be when you're starting the roll. And from here, the blade should sweep out across the surface, skim across the surface until it gets to 90 degrees. And then you would pull it straight down and you'd be up. Of course, the blade would be in the water, not on top of my boat, but this is the orientation that it would be when everything works properly. Now, unfortunately, on this particular roll, if we let that play through, instead of sweeping out, you went straight down. And that should actually be sweeping out across the surface so that from a 90 degree you would pull straight down. another point to look at is, in this case, this was the second attempt at a roll. Your first attempt, you actually started from that position. And if you notice the orientation of the blade, ignore the fact that the kayak is tipping on its side, you can actually see better actually this way, is that the rotation of that paddle blade is vertical compared to where it's going to be when the roll is completed upside down. So now that blade is vertical. It is not flat on the surface. It's actually pointing down. So when you try to sweep it, it's going to go down. So it's important that as you first set up, that your wrists and the paddle blade are turned that way, like this. And again, the blade needs to sweep out to the side so that it looks like that, and then you come up. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, Paul, this time, yeah, this is really good, a good video of this one. Watch you play through here. You flip over, your hands are in the right spot, but before you even got started, you were doomed. Let me back that up a few frames. When you went over, you started off and your paddle was right on the side of the boat, but before you ever even got all the way over, see where your paddle is. Now your left hand is in a good position, but your right hand is not. And I would say that's because you can't get your right hand further up if your head is straight up. So if your head, Paul, if your head were against the boat right here, that would enable you to get that right hand closer to the surface. As it is, it can't. So you started off good, but then you brought that, and I'll back that up just a few more frames. You can see that, actually, no, I was wrong. That paddle was always in that position, and I should have said tuck a little bit more, and that'll get the paddle in the right place. So let me play it through.
Yep, he's going straight down. He's going to push up.
Now, you do what you do. You do what you can to get up, and that's what matters in the end. But if you were out anywhere else, you wouldn't have the bottom that close to be able to push. So if we back this up a little bit, a few more frames. If you watch the direction of your stroke is nowhere near the surface of the water. Your stroke is going straight down. And that's the same thing that John had. And I would blame myself for this. I didn't give a good explanation of what you should be doing. And that is thinking about getting that paddle blade that's in the air against your butt and getting your right hand as close to the surface. You should really be reaching for the surface with your right hand and not think about the paddle. Let's focus on the hand. If you get your hand close to the surface, that paddle blade will be close to the surface. So let this play through.
Yep, he's going straight down. He's going to push off the bottom.
Now you did well there. You got yourself up, and that's what counts. It's good to have a success, even if it was a cheat. So I don't fault you for that. You did exactly. I honestly, one of the first times I rolled, I did the exact same thing. I was in a shallow river and trying it out.
Hey,
nothing wrong with that.
You can cheat that way, yeah. But that also tells you where the paddle was.
There you go. All right, let's go to the next one. And the next one is Olivia. All right, and for Olivia, I did not capture a roll. I don't think we did a roll for you. I don't remember at the moment, but I remember that you weren't fit well into the boat, and so after we tried this, we figured out why. But I'll play through this so you can hear.
So bring the paddle. Now, first of all, hold it the way you would hold it. So the paddle shaft, and you can feel that oval shape to the paddle shaft. So you can tell that it should be, if you were just paddling along, you'd be paddling this way, right? Yeah. Okay. Now if you drop your elbow and rotate your wrist a little bit, you see how now it's horizontal.
Yes.
Now you're using my boat just like you would if you were with the paddle. Okay. And again, like I told the other guys, if I get behind you here, you have total control. Yeah, keep me in front of you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Your right hand can be up toward your face or toward your forehead.
Use your knees.
Yeah.
That's good.
I have no...
So bring me back in front of you.
Okay.
Bring me back in front of you. Pull your knees toward your chest.
I can't really do that because I'll just fall out.
Alright, come on up, come on up. Hang up, hang on.
Okay.
Oh, you just fell out.
Yeah. No, it's
Or
really
did you
big.
let it go?
Well, I might have let it go a little bit, but it's
Okay.
like my legs were straight out.
Oh. All right, so what we've got going on there, and I'm going to mute this before we play this one again. What we have going on here is the boat was not fit properly. So it wasn't so much that you couldn't do something right, it's that the boat wasn't fit properly. And when I'm saying bring your knees to your chest, the idea is you should stay in a sitting position. And what happens here is as you go through, so let me pick up the speed a little bit here, that you're sitting back, you're leaning back, and you need to lean forward. That is bringing your head closer to the front of the boat. And that's why we're getting back behind you. And then the other is that your left hand, by sticking your left hand out, that naturally swings because it's all rotating around your right hand. If you push your left hand out, then the other end of the paddle is going to go behind you. So the idea is to keep the left hand close to your body as well, and that way you'll keep the paddle in front of you entirely. So that's everything there. I'll let that play out one more time so you can see what's going on here. And ultimately, you were doomed once you got that far back, because your body strength, it's really difficult. I don't care who you are, unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, to be able to hold yourself out that way is really difficult, especially when it gets behind your head and reaching way out. This is also hard on your shoulder, on your right shoulder here. It's not a good thing for that. So let this one play out, and you fell out of the boat, and that's because, again, it wasn't fitted properly. You had nothing to push your feet against. If this were properly fitted, you're pushing your feet against the pedals and your knees. That way you can wedge your knees between your feet and your knees, or your thighs. They are wedged in there, like locked in. So, all right, and then one more. And this one is John. So I didn't get any more rolls, but John, this was similar doing the bracing off of the kayak. We're just bracing. This is a high brace. And again, boom, I'm getting behind you. If we pause that, note where your left hand is reaching out, and we should keep that hand closer to your body. Also, you're you're leaning your torso back, and therefore that's going to swing everything back. So the idea here again is if you bring your knees toward your chest or bring your face toward the spray skirt, that will get things in position, because as I'm sure you could tell and you can see the strain to hold yourself up, when this is done right, from right there, you have a lot of strength. And the moment you got there, look at all the strength you've got to lift yourself up. So there's a huge difference just in that foot or so distance of getting that paddle blade in front of you. It gives you such a big change in the amount of strength you've got, because it's using your large muscle groups. It's using your chest and your back. To recap what we've talked about, one, make sure that you got the boat set up right and that you have a good fit. It should be more like you're wearing it than sitting in it. You should be able to brace your feet against the foot pegs so that you can wedge your knees or your thighs in against the thigh braces inside the boat. Also, you may need to move the seat back forward if you don't have a good fit that way. And then make sure that your spray skirt has a good tight fit so that you don't have water leaking in. It should fit tight around your waist as well as snugly to the cockpit rim. And then it's very helpful to have a nose plug, because if you don't have a nose plug, then being upside down, it can really irritate your sinuses and stuff, and it causes you to want to get out a lot faster. And have a leash for that. It should have a lanyard so you can put it around your neck, or tie it to the shoulder of your life vest, and that way you'll always have it whenever you have your life vest on. You've got your nose plug. Or if you wear a helmet, then you would have it on your helmet. And then next would be having a good start position. The setup is everything. If you're not in a good position here, you're not going to be able to roll well. The blade is flat on the surface. That is, the blade toward the front of the boat. That's the one that he's going to be lifting up with in this picture. And the blade to the back of the boat, which is to the left side in this picture, is going to go up underneath the boat. That is, the boat's upside down, so it's going to go on the bottom, against the bottom of the boat. And the other blade is going to go out to perpendicular. And then when it is, we should get it'll be perpendicular. Then it's just a matter of rotating the boat. And remember to go with the lift the boat, not the head. And those are just 3 things to think on. And you can practice this. You can take your boat and put it in the living room floor if it'll fit, or out in the yard, although the rain is coming now. But or in the garage, you can throw a rug on the ground and you can just get in your boat and sit there and kind of practice this and get a feel for it.